Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
I'm Jacob.
Today we're taking a step back to 1996 to take a look at a superhero movie that aired on the Fox network back then, before the X-Men series, before the MCU, and quite a few years after the Lou Ferrigno Hulk series. We had Generation X, the, I believe, first attempt at a live-action X-Men film.
Well, so it was a TV pilot, which is why it was an hour and a half.
Yes, that's right. It is a TV pilot, essentially. There were quite a few live-action TV series in the 90s and the 2000s based upon superhero comics.
And it was very tangentially related. It was mostly names.
Or not even names. Sometimes they just take in a character's appearance and give him a whole new name.
Or taking one of the characters' names and give it to another character, and yeah.
Well, I mean, you're the expert on this, I guess. Within the context of the comics, Generation X
doesn't exist.
Really?
Generation X, the TV pilot movie, was a choice. Not one I'm sure should have been made.
No.
Like I said, its relation to the actual comics in the series is they use some names and some powers, and that's about it.
Yeah. So you don't have your Charles Xaviers.
No, he's only mentioned by name in this.
You don't have Wolverine, although some character does have a picture of Wolverine on his t-shirt.
Yep.
Which is
There's
unusual.
no Magneto, no Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Even the choices of who they chose as the main cast are interesting. Because usually you'd think, oh, it'd be Scott and Jean or Beast of Storm. No, it's Emma Frost and Banshee.
Yeah.
Which, love both those characters. Very strange choice to be the ones leading the team.
Yeah, it's just some of the other ones as well. I mean, Skin.
Yes,
Skin
was always a very obscure, underutilized character, and his powers in the comics are not nearly as effective as they are in the movie. In the comics, he literally has just got extra skin.
Ooh, yeah, that's the drawback of mutation. It's a mixed bag.
Not all of them are good.
No.
Whereas in the movie, he's treated like basically Mr. Fantastic, who just has stretchy arms and stuff. It's like that's an interesting choice.
But it seems to cause him pain.
Yeah, which is the most alarming part. He seems to be in quite a lot of pain when he stretches.
Yes, so he's not in control of the stretchiness. It's not like he can extend his limbs like Ms. Marvel or Mr. Fantastic can. It's just stretchy. It's a Stretch Armstrong.
Yes, only he does at the end of the movie, but that was also in a weird kind of dream realm, which is another thing to touch on in this movie. We'll get to that.
Oh, man. I guess star-wise, who is in this movie?
The thing is...
Randos.
They're all B-list actors, except the ones who played Emma Frost and Sean Cassidy. Both had reasonably prolific careers. It's just that they're mostly just B-list actors, which isn't to say they're bad. It's just they're not the ones you think of in the spotlight. But particularly Banshee's actor. I looked him up, and he's been in quite a few things. He's got well over 100 roles under his belt.
He's a Canadian actor. Jeremy Ratchford is his name. He starred as Nick Vera in Cold Case, which was a program which just seemed to be perpetually on when I was a kid.
Yep. Cold Case is always around.
It's one of those shows like CSI where you're kind of like, this can't end. It's always on.
And Emma Frost...
Oh, wow. He was actually the voice of Banshee in the X-Men animated series.
Yeah, which is very cool. I reckon he got that role because of this.
Yeah, he's...
Because this was around the animated series time.
Yeah.
I think a bit before, actually.
Same year, 1996, it says, yeah.
So that'd be why.
Yeah, well, his voice is like, that's distractingly Irish. It works within the context of the cartoon, but I'm like, that sounds quite authentic to the Banshee I remember from the cartoon. And it is. It's the same
only
guy.
Problem with the Banshee authentic to the cartoon is the Banshee authentic to the cartoon is not authentic to the Irish. It was very much a cartoonish Canadian/American doing an Irish accent. We all know what it sounds like. We've all heard it in movies and TV series before. It's never a good sign.
No. It's not quite as egregious as Pride of the X-Men. Oh, she's just a kid, mate.
Oh, but it's still very egregious. It sounds like a comedy Irish accent to someone who doesn't know what an Irish person sounds like.
That's right, darling. We're mutants. Your mother asked us to take you.
The actress who played Emma Frost is Finola Hughes, who's an English actress,
And
television
she
host.
was in General Hospital, which was one of those hospital procedural dramas that just aired forever.
It says here she played Laura in the film Staying Alive, which is a sequel to Saturday Night Fever.
So, like I said, they've got what really surprised me though was the main villain. Was it Russell Tresh or something?
Yep.
Was played by Matt Frewer.
Yep.
Max Headroom himself.
Yes.
That surprised me. And you could tell because, my God, the man chewed every scene he was in, whether we wanted him to or not.
Well, with this machine, I can get directly into anybody's dreams and make suggestions like, buy Slick Lips lipstick, or play Virtua Fighter video games. Only this will be 1,000 times more effective because I'm going straight into their brains.
So I've seen him in a few things.
Same. He's probably, out of all the actors, probably the most prolific. He's been fucking everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek The Next Generation, and of course, Max Headroom.
Yeah.
He was in something else I saw fairly recently.
He's the kind of guy who cameos in a lot of series, just like for one episode.
He's recently been in Fear the Walking Dead and Perry Mason with Matthew Rhys. Altered Carbon, The Order, Magicians.
It's
The Librarians,
it's
Orphan
insane.
Black, Supernatural. Oh, it just goes on and on and on.
But I have to say, he as the villain, he was a choice. I will say this: he pulled off being creepy and uncomfortable very well in the movie.
Yeah, he's...
You felt kind of greasy and gross every time he was on screen.
watching him in this, I think, this is full. This is like, I mean, imagine Jim Carrey times
Exactly.
10.
This movie, I will say this movie, its plot, its characters and everything, it feels like it was meant to be a different movie. It was a script that was already written, but then they slapped the X-Men onto it just so they could market it as an X-Men movie. Because nothing about the plot screams X-Men whatsoever.
In saying Jim Carrey, Batman Forever came out in 1995, the year before.
Yeah.
And he's basically just doing the Riddler.
He is literally just the Riddler. Everything about his performance, almost every single line he has is a one-liner joke.
They're not always good.
No, a lot of them don't land. Some of them
Yeah.
are kind of funny. A lot of them don't. He's very uncomfortable to watch in some scenes, especially when he's calling like the underage teenage girls like Jubilee Babe and all.
Oh,
I was
God,
like,
talk-
I don't like this.
This film, what? Okay, Jubilee is in this, who is traditionally Korean or Vietnamese
She's
in the
meant
comics.
to be, yeah.
Played
She's an adopted refugee.
Played by the actress Lana Condor in X-Men Apocalypse.
Yep.
She's been in Like to All the Boys I've Loved Before and Deadly Class, bunch of stuff, you know.
And this
she's
one
quite
just seems to
prolific.
be white.
Yeah, she's white.
White.
The effects were quite good. I thought the effects they used for... I mean, effects-wise, you know, they're like drawings of fireworks over the top of the...
Yeah.
Over the top of the image, but it looks like you'd sort of imagine those would look
Yeah.
like.
I'll also, another funny thing about this is there's not a lot of powers being used.
No, yeah.
It's very limited amount of powers being used, which for X-Men is strange.
I'm thinking about it. What was that film? I think it was Kiefer Sutherland, and they did a remake with Elliot Page a few years ago where they go into someone's mind.
Inception? No, wait, that was...
There is Inception, because there is the whole dream element to this. But it was...
Oh, it would have been Flatliners.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it,
Flatliners,
Flatliners. Yeah,
yeah.
I had the remake a few years ago. Remake, reboot? It's one of the two.
Reboot.
Yeah, Elliot Page. Oh, Diego Luna. How about
I'll be
that?
damned. I did not know they
Nina
did
Dobrev, James Norton.
Did not know they did a remake reboot.
I believe it is like a... Kiefer Sutherland is in it. But it kind of feels like it could have been that. Or it could have been like a proto-Inception, because
Yeah.
I was even thinking of hackers in places,
Yeah.
you know.
So the basic premise of the show, out in the movie, is it's very much based around dreams and the dream dimension, and how you can tap into the dream dimension and force your will upon people. Which was weird and strange, and the capitalist wet dream.
Very Inception, actually.
And it just did not feel like an X-Men plot.
No.
Not one thing about this felt like it was an X-Men plot. It was a very strange movie.
Yeah, our discussion of this is very messy, but I mean, then again, when isn't it?
And so was the
So was the movie. Yeah, there was a scene that had me going like WTF was when they pick up Jubilee, Emma Frost and Banshee, and they take her back to the X-Mansion, which is actually portrayed by the same castle, Hatley Castle, which is actually used as the Xavier Institute in the Bryan Singer films.
Yeah, it's just kind of the quintessential Xavier Institute at this point.
It's a great look.
It is.
But they bring back the new ex-recruits, and they make them strip down, and it's a
That was weird.
very long drawn-out scene of Jubilee, who is canonly 15 years old, being made to strip down.
Yeah, that was weird and uncomfortable. I didn't like that.
No.
This movie was definitely a product of its time. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I was watching. I'm like, what is this? Star Trek Enterprise?
Well, see, I watched it properly. The only way you should watch a movie like this, and that was at 480p on YouTube. It really got me into the mindset of this is a shitty 90s straight-to-TV film.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I could barely see a thing.
You just needed to break out the CRT television.
Oh, exactly. I was watching my little laptop though, so it's kind of the same thing. Obviously, because it was from the 90s and stuff, there really aren't any better copies of it, because it wasn't exactly the kind of movie that was going to get a remaster.
No.
No one was going to clean it up and make it look good. It was always just going to be 480p disaster.
It's a shame, because I did want to see some of the character costumes clearer and kind of get an idea. And it is very colourful as well.
It is. I'll say that. There's a lot of colour. And it's shot very 90s as well.
Yeah, it's like, I think of the Ninja Turtles films from that era. It's just very dark in places. And
the dark places, it feels like they're just focusing. For instance, when they go into... they got to do some more context here. They use a dream machine. Now, at the start of the movie, we see that Russell Trash, the villain, and Emma Frost used to work together at a government institute studying dreams. Emma Frost being a government worker is very strange to me. That would never happen, but here we are. But yeah, basically they created this machine that allowed you to lucid dream and go into the dream dimension. And they have this throughout the movie. And whenever they use the X Mansion, nothing else is in the room. It is a black void with a spotlight on the dream machine with them sitting in it.
yes.
Like, there's no other set piece. It's just this black void. It's like, that feels very 90s.
Yeah, a lot of programs back then were just in black voids, weren't they?
And this also feels like they were just reusing sets they found around Hollywood to film it. It felt like a lot. It literally did feel like the Riddler's plot from that Batman movie.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Tresh's, Matt Frewer's base, and it's like, is he in like some public toilets or like a 1980s apartment or something?
Exactly.
It's got like those frosted cube windows, whatever they're called. And like neon lights shining through them.
And he was just very... It just felt like he'd watched the Jim Carrey's Riddler and thought, yeah, I'm going to do that, but more. I'm going to be more over the top.
Oh, dear. I was wondering, because it is very slapdash.
It feels like something... It definitely feels like a test pilot. Like, it wasn't designed to be this big, polished blockbuster movie. It was designed to say, look what we could make. Let's do this thing. Which didn't work, funnily enough.
There's a question I want to pose to you about comic book adaptations. It seems like with these comic book adaptations, there's like free reign. Like, you can kind of borrow from any comic, but they never do a direct adaptation unless it's animated, DC, and it's crap.
I will say the reason for that, I think, is because to directly adapt a lot of these stories, you need a lot more than a movie. Because there is a lot that goes into these stories. And then, remember, these stories tend to span over several issues. Often several different comic books. For instance, the X of Swords arc that was recent in the last couple of years in X-Men. You had to read, I think, about 8 different X-Men related comics just to understand the full story.
Yeah.
Try translating all that into a movie. You'd have to have so many tangent plots, so many side plots, so many characters just to get everything you need to get all the context that... Unless you can do that in a reasonably well-budgeted TV series, it's not going to happen. You cannot squeeze that amount of plot and that amount of detail into even a 3-hour movie or a 2-episode special.
You could sort of do similar now with the MCU, where characters are kind of established, where nearly everyone goes and sees the new Doctor Strange or the new Thor film. So then you can bring in those characters and you don't need to really set up who they are, because you kind of know. We saw it with Infinity War, where that just brought in the Guardians, and it's like, there you go. Here they are with Thor, it works. And of course there's licensing issues.
Oh god, yeah, the licensing issues are one of the worst parts.
Yeah, but with this it's like, okay,
why does Sean Cassidy look nothing like Sean Cassidy? Emma Frost at least looked Emma Frostish. She had the dress sense, she had the blonde hair, the kind of weaponized sexuality that Emma Frost has. Like, yeah, she's kind of sexual and all that, but she owns it.
When they first introduced her, I was worried, like, have they just pinched Storm's powers for her? But they do establish a little on that she is all mental. Like, all her powers are mentally based. Psychic. So she, convinces people to see things that aren't there. So you kind of think, oh, yeah, that was a psychic projection. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's all fake outs. I will say there was one nice little note I appreciated was when Banshee and Emma Frost are having a tender moment while Emma's doubting herself and stressing out about the kids rebelling. She makes a nice little nod to the Hellions. Now, in the comics, the Hellions, back when Emma Frost was still a villain, was her own little team of students she had.
Oh, right.
So she was raising them when she was still a villain to be future villains. But unfortunately, they did all get killed, as tends to happen in comics.
Was that within the comics? Negasonic Teenage Warhead was one of them.
I think at one point she might have been.
Yeah,
I
like in
remember
her
that until
initial
last time.
her initial appearance, like she shows up and then she's immediately killed along with the rest of them.
Yeah, the Hellions don't last long.
No.
There have been a few Hellions teams throughout the years, but the original team that Emma had did all die.
Yeah.
And I did think it was nice they actually referenced that. That was really cool to me. I was like, oh. Because I didn't hear it at first because YouTube sound quality. And I was like, Cass was like, I'll try to do my voice. You can't blame yourself for the Hellions, Emma.
Yeah, it's a nice
I was
bit
like, what did he say? The Hellions! Actually referenced. That's awesome.
it's a nice bit of context, you know, and tie back to the comics and good reference there.
I was like, oh, that's a nice little... I liked that. Emma was probably one of the most realised comic book to movie-wise, because she at least looked like she's meant to be Emma.
Yeah.
She had the platinum blonde hair, the big makeup, the kind of raunchy but still classy outfits and all that. She at least felt like she was trying to be Emma Frost, which I
Yeah.
appreciated. Sean Cassidy was trying to be Sean Cassidy in the sense that he was trying to be Irish and failing.
Yeah, he just looks like a dude.
He's just a guy. He had the 90s goatee. The quintessential 90s goatee.
It does seem there was a comic series called Generation X, which began a few years prior, and Emma Frost and Banshee were the leaders. But it was based in Massachusetts.
But even back then, it was still a strange choice for those two. And obviously, well, I can't speak for at the time because I was 2 years old.
Well, again, going back to the use of powers, how the use of powers in these things is always weird. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like until we got to Blade and the X-Men movies and Spider-Man now.
We got to see all the cool powers actually happen.
Yeah, it's like you'd have a Spider-Man film and Spider-Man uses his web to, I don't know, make himself a tennis net or something so he can play tennis or a basketball.
Something weird.
Yeah, he does something weird. Or like in this, Banshee uses his screaming powers to break up a fight. Or like, you know, Stretchy Guy's skin gets his arms stretched out so another character has to then tackle, and it's like, what was that food eating contest in the cafe? Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was weird. That
Yeah.
that had no context to it whatsoever.
Yeah, I think I got angry at the movie then.
It was just the one dude, can't remember his name, he could absorb the hardness of whatever he's touching. And he was just having a weird milkshake sculling stare off with a random jock in the cafe, apropos of nothing.
Yeah.
Like, there was no reason for this. And then there was even a pointless towny bully scene where they just picked on Angelo's skin.
Yeah, lots of, hey, Holmes, you know.
Yeah, very much trying to just drive home the fact this guy's obviously, you know, Mexican.
Yeah, Hispanic, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, this is what's happening when we're doing this, are we? I mean, it's nice that one of the lead, because the lead were basically Skin and Jubilee out of the kids with the lead mutant kids.
It's
How's
good
it
to see
always
Asian
Jubilee?
representation.
Yeah, white as Jubilee. At least
Yeah.
Angelo was actually, you know, something that wasn't just typically white. But
yeah.
yeah, it was. Oh, there was a lot of weird choices. This movie was so goddamn weird to watch. I watched it last night, and I'm still processing a lot of what I
Yeah,
saw.
same. Did you notice there's a point where it's all pretty PG, you know, it's fine, and then it's like there's
They
a
just start
commercial
dropping
break.
F-bombs everywhere.
Yeah.
It's Jubilee. She's just going dropping F-bombs. I was like,
Oh,
when did
okay.
this movie start swearing?
Oh, okay, it's after 9 o'clock now, we can do that.
I was literally just watching. I was like, oh yeah. Wait, what? I wasn't ready for that. That caught me off guard.
No.
Awesome.
Nuts. That was the scariest thing I have ever felt in my entire life. I cosmic my
It had that 90s... Not to piss off the
Generation X's
dude
themselves.
bros in our audience that don't exist because it's us.
Yeah.
But it was quite a misogynistic movie in a lot of places. There was a lot of the typical 1990s misogyny in it. And it was just kind of icky a lot of the time.
Oh, and R word, and yeah.
There
It's
was
like, oh, here we are, 90s.
There was a nice moment though with Kurt, who has Scott's powers and was bleach blonde, who's like laser vision but now also has X-ray vision, and he was always joking about how when his powers was getting look through and see your panties and all that.
Oh,
Like,
dear.
he's joking about that all the time, and yet in the movie when he's snuggling up and getting intimate with one of his fellow mutants, his powers do awaken. and he can see through. And surprisingly, what he immediately does is he immediately looks away, cuts it off and says, we should get back to the others. This thing he's always joking about actually happens and thinking, I'm going to look through and see your panties. This thing actually happens, and the first thing he thinks to do is, no, I don't want to disrespect her like this.
Yeah, he was quite inconsistent. Like, some scenes he was like saying that, and then he was saying like, this lady's a babe, and then he's all like sweet and sensitive, and it's like, okay.
I think I like that because it shows the layers. It gave potential to show layers of this character.
Yeah, that's true.
It showed that the dude, bro, hyper-masculine, sexualizing everything, did feel like a front. It felt like this is what he thought he had to be because of how men are portrayed at that time in the media.
That's fair.
Which is very much how things were back then. And even now, still a lot of the time, men are portrayed has to be kind of dude bros, hyper-masculine, sexualizing everything, treat women like shit. It's like the Andrew Tate bullshit.
Yeah.
But in this moment, we got to see that underneath that facade, underneath all that hyper-masculinity, all that sexuality, all that creepy, gross, pervy shit, at the end of the day, he did just genuinely want to have an intimate, genuine relationship with this girl, and he did not want to violate her in that way.
Yeah, which was nice.
Because he knew that would be crossing a line where he would be looking at her in her unmentionables without her consent and without her knowledge, and that is not on. So I thought, for me, that caught me off guard. That was a surprisingly nice moment.
That was.
And actually redeemed the character for me, because before that, he was just the typical creep.
I remember 2002 when Smallville was first airing here in Australia. It might have been a little bit before.
That was
but it was
series.
There was a radio ad, and it's like, Clark Kent has developed his X-ray vision, and it's all like the female voiceover. He can see through clothes, and it's like, wait, what? Oh God, really?
No, that's one thing I've always felt icky about that. When there's and most series always played off as a joke, like, haha, we're looking at the girl's underwear, isn't that wacky? It's like, no, that's gross. And
are you racked with like a sense of anxiety that what if there is someone out there who has X-ray vision or can read minds?
I don't want public. I would have to do me to do that, because do not look at my naked body. It's not a pretty sight. It's very flabby. It's very hairy. Don't do it to yourself.
Jeez.
I'd feel more sorry for you at that point.
You brought this on yourself.
You did this to yourself.
But Generation X, yeah.
Yeah, very typical 90s, kind of misogynistic, kind of pervy, kind of creepy. Not too racist, though, which is nice. There was no real race baiting, but there was also not really anyone who wasn't white or Hispanic, so there's also that.
Jubilee, I guess you could pass off as, like, unless there was, like, an explicit mention every time she appeared in a comic that she was a certain ethnicity, it might just slip you by, and you might just cast a white actress. But, you know, in saying that, the actress might have, like, Asian
we don't know. She just looked very particularly white. But again,
she did look the part, though. You know, she was in yellow and she had the hair.
And to be fair, we did watch it in 480p.
Yes.
For all we know, she could have been South African. We wouldn't know because that's how blurry everything was.
Yeah, true there.
Like the whole movie, Emma Frost looked like she came straight out of a 90s soap opera with the amount of bloom effects on her face.
Yeah.
She was just a pair of eyes and white. Again, also that 90s, a lot of those camera effects back then, like a lot of bloom, a lot of blur. Very hard to look at a lot of the time. The dreamscape, which is this weird painted backdrop.
Very Stephen King like TV movie vibes.
Yeah,
but that might have just been the look. You know,
it was like, again, like the whole thing about going into Dreamland and Trash, the villain, the whole thing starts with him using the Dream Machine to put subliminal advertisements into teenagers' brains so they'll buy their product. Which capitalist dream, nightmare to us.
That's very Riddler as well, isn't it?
Again, yeah, that's literally the plot of the Riddler. He's just the Riddler.
But also, he convinces that guy to walk out a window. That was very Nightmare on Elm Street, part 3, that one.
They even referenced Freddy Krueger at one point.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of fun. I was like, oh, hey, the 90s referencing pop culture.
Dreams, yeah.
I was like, wow, this is just, this is, at least it seems self-aware enough to know it was just kind of...
Yeah.
It definitely felt like a script someone else had written and they just slapped X-Men onto it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Make it happen, people.
And like I said, character choices are strange and... blending of different character traits, like not Cyclops, but he's
he has Cyclops powers, but also doesn't because he doesn't just.
I do
shoot
wonder
out lasers immediately, and he can see through things. But he's called Kurt.
Yeah, I do wonder if it was a rights issue. Again,
I wouldn't be surprised. It would make sense to me if it was a lot of it was licensing because I don't even remember like the other characters from the comics.
No.
And like they had that one girl who was like at the start was built up to the arrogant one who was like, I'm literally perfect in every way. And she never really got any screen time or development after that.
Yeah.
She was just there.
It does seem quite a few characters like Skin and M were characters within the comics.
Yeah, they just used a lot of lesser known ones.
There was actually that one character, and it was like said that she was super strong, but her body was weird, and then it's just like they use a female bodybuilder.
Yeah, her body was weird, was just she was muscular. No, there's nothing weird about muscular female bodies. Why are you using this? Her body's so gross. No,
Yeah, it's
not remotely.
the way they describe it.
You think she's like has some kind of weird physical deformity or something when they were describing it. She's just muscular.
Yeah.
How is that weird?
Yeah, I mean, you go on Twitter now, and Claire Max, who's this female bodybuilder, is like, everywhere. And she's huge,
Female bodybuilders are more popular than ever. A lot of that is because creepy dudes sexualizing everything. But still, they've always been there.
Yeah.
It's never been weird. It's just, again, that weird kind of 90s mentality where every attractive woman had to be willowy thin.
I think they did describe her as like, moving, and I think that was just like a reference to the muscles, as someone being incredibly descriptive with their, description of her. But I kind of thought, imagine if like under the clothes, like if she was just like a weird writhing mass, like her body was like ever changing.
Well, I was picturing like the tale of Cuchulainn, the Irish folklore hero.
Right.
How in battle he would transform into a monster. But the way he's described in a lot of those is just his skin shifting and peeling and taking on different forms. And it doesn't sound like he just turns into a beast. It sounds like it turns into this kind of amorphous, horrific mass. I was like, is that what's going on here?
Yeah.
No, she's just muscular.
Yeah.
Oh no, terrifying. And like your one shot you see of her looking terrifying is a very obvious cut to a female bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Like it's blatantly obvious. It's just cut to a bodybuilder, then cut back. And it's like, wow, that was very poorly cut, guys. Did you even try? There was a lot of weird choices in this movie.
It was.
I don't regret watching it. It was an experience. I'm glad I had it. Don't know if I'd watch it again. But as an avid lover of X-Men, I felt it was my duty to watch this.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And to appreciate how far they've come.
Oh, yeah. It makes you appreciate a lot. I'd still say, I still watch this one before I watch X-Men Dark Phoenix again.
Yeah, true, actually. It's shorter for one thing.
This one's shorter, and at least it's entertainingly bad.
And colourful.
And colourful, and kind of fun, and dumb. Like, I will warn you, if you watch this, it's not aged well at all.
No.
There's a lot of very uncomfortable moments.
But yeah, anyway, this is Generation X. It came out in 1996. Stars a bunch of people we've spoken about.
Yeah.
Most notably Max Headroom. And it's available to watch on YouTube for free.
Literally it's on there. It's
just there.
For ODP, the whole thing.
So many TV movies are just on there. And
I
I
think
guess
that's fantastic.
It is, yeah. It's great. And it's good as well that you don't need to like watch it in like 10-minute chunks.
Yeah, you can just watch the whole thing in one big blow. I was just chilling on the couch watching on the laptop last night. This is great.
I'm Royce.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Toodaloo.